It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It is another delightful weekend here. It's Jill on Money. Mark and I are ready to rock and roll with you, answer your questions. We're broadcasting from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? This is just the best part of my week. Yeah. It's just seeing Mark, hanging out with him, answering your questions, getting the emails, talking to you. It's great. It is. It's the best part of my week. Absolutely. I mean, granted, the one downside of radio is no one's doing my hair and makeup like they do with television, but you don't care. You don't care what I look like on the radio, do you? I'm wearing a baseball cap right now. It's a freedom. Freedom, I tell you. All right. This is a program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. And the way we do that is we encourage you to send us questions. So our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. That's askjill@jillonmoney.com. If you are on the website, jillonmoney.com, maybe because you're buying my book, which is now out in paperback, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. So maybe you're buying the book, but maybe you're watching some TV clips to see what it does look like when my hair is done nicely, or maybe you're doing your taxes and you need a resource, or you want a new financial advisor and you want to know the questions to ask, so you're in our resource section. If you're just poking around the website and you've got a question, we've got a contact button from the website as well. So check it out, okay? So let's start the program as we often do, and that is with Deborah. She is calling from the Garden State, New Jersey. Welcome to the program, Deborah. What can I do for you?
Well, thank you very much, Jill. I have a question. My husband and I are rapidly approaching retirement. I have, just as a background, I'm 63 and he's 61. So when I get to Medicare age and don't have to work for insurance, I have to wait for him. So I'm the one who provides the benefits, and therefore I'm probably going to work until I'm 67 just to let him catch up.
Okay.
I'm a nurse practitioner. I make $176,000 a year. My husband was making a great income of $120 a year until 2 years ago.
Oh.
There was a merger in the pharmaceutical industry that he worked in, and unfortunately he was one of the victims.
Oh.
So until 2 years went by before he actually went back to work, but he's doing just part-time retail. Mm-hmm. So he makes $25,000 a year. I owe $90,000 on my mortgage, and my question is, I've been trying to pay it down faster than what the actual payment is, and he and I have argued a little bit about we should just put more money in savings and do the payment on the mortgage the way it's scheduled. Mm-hmm. I don't know if that's the best advice at this age.
Well, let me ask you a couple of questions. So, first of all, what is the rate on the outstanding mortgage?
It's 4.25%.
Okay. And the actual payment's not a problem. You've got the money to do it, right?
Right.
So you're a nurse practitioner. Do you have a retirement account through work?
I have a retirement account through work, but I also have an annuity for both my husband and I. From having worked at previous places, we consolidated everything and did a guaranteed annuity. We're a little on the conservative side, so that made me feel better knowing that I wouldn't run out of money.
Okay. How much is in the guaranteed annuity?
So when I retire at 67, I would draw $43,500 a year, and he would draw $38,000 a year.
That amount, the 38 and the 43.5, will that be enough for you in retirement as like a base of income?
We're actually counting more on our Social Security as our base and this as the extra.
Okay.
My calculated Social Security from my years of working is $3,100 a year.
Mm-hmm.
A year, $3,100 a month.
Yep.
Sorry about that. And for him, it would be $2,600 a month.
Okay, so if we put together, let's put this all together: 2 streams of payment from the annuity, 2 Social Security checks. That will do it for you guys right now? Like you think, based on what you know today?
I think so.
Great.
I actually think it's going to be more than what we need.
All right,
we
great.
We have no credit card debt. Our children are old enough that they have finished college. One did the military, so that there was no school loans left to pay for either of them.
Mm-hmm. And then what about the other money, like you have a 403B through work or something?
I have a 403B through work, and that right now has $189,000 in it.
Uh-huh. And you said you're conservative, which is fine. No problem with that. Do you have money outside of retirement?
Yes, I have $46,000 in the bank as what I refer to my emergency money.
Okay, great. Anything else I should know about? Any other people you have to take care of, parents or relatives?
Both of our fathers are deceased. His mother lives in a retirement community she's well funded, and my mom lives with my sister in Florida. So neither of our parents are a burden to us.
Okay.
We did buy 2 new cars back in October out of necessity.
Mm-hmm.
So there are payments on the cars.
Okay. What are the interest rates on the cars?
3.99 on each of them.
Okay. Interesting. And how much extra are you throwing down on the house, on the mortgage?
So I've been doing $1,800 a month, which is just a little over $1,000 extra.
Okay.
On the mortgage each month.
Okay. The mortgage is going to mature at what point based on the $90,000 that's outstanding right now?
It would mature in 15 years. If I continued only to pay what the bank says I should, if I continue at my $1,800 a month, I calculate, I think maybe 7 or 8 years I could finish it off.
Okay. That's not terrible.
One other thing, I'm sorry, Jill. Yeah. We have a rental property that has an outstanding mortgage on it, but it's been rented for the last 5 years consistently.
Mm-hmm.
When we retire, we think we're going to sell that, never intended to be landlords, and I would probably realize about $100,000 in cash out of it.
Oh, I love that. You left out a good piece of information for me.
That.
Juicy. Okay. So when you say you get $100,000, is that $100,000 after paying the tax that would be due because you probably have some tax event?
Yes, after the tax and all the other expenses.
Oh, you made it so easy for me. So this is in 5 years, right?
Yes.
Okay. Stop paying extra. Because you're going to be, first of all, it's weird. Like, I don't know if you are subject to the limitation, the SALT limitation, because you're in a high tax state, New Jersey, whether you hit it or not. But I would much prefer you guys to chill out a little bit. You're in great shape. With the extra $1,000, if you want to start paying something down, I always love to pay down, a car loan, but yours are pretty cheap. I wouldn't go crazy. You're going to have this rental property that is sold, and even if your market was soft at the time, you're going to be able to pay everything down. So I would take the pressure off. I would keep building up that emergency reserve fund, and continue to put money into your 403B, and I would just go easy. And if you're feeling like it just bugs you so much, sure, you can pay a little extra towards the mortgage and a little extra towards the cars, but don't go crazy. The rental property is going to pay everything off, okay? So deep breath. You're doing a great job, Deborah, and I look forward to hearing from you because I think you're in very good shape. So let us know if I did not cover something you wanted me to cover. Good shape. All right, it's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a holler. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. And often when we get your email, Mark's going to try to wrangle you to come on the air because, honest to God, when we hear your voice and we get to actually have a conversation, we're able to provide more robust advice, right? Just makes sense. So send us an email and come on the air. That's what Linda did. She is calling from Minneapolis, where we broadcast on WCCO, one of my favorite stations in the nation. Hello, Linda. Welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Well, hello. Good morning, Jill. Yes, WCCO is a good station.
Yeah.
Well, I find myself at 64 years of age unemployed. Not completely surprised by that, but I thought maybe I could hang on another year, but didn't happen. So the question is, do I use my IRA funds and let my Social Security payout grow, or do I collect my Social Security at 66? I'd wait till 66 at least, probably, to do that. And so, yeah, which is a better way to go? Take that guaranteed Social Security increase every year, or
tell me a little bit about the money that you have. You said you've got some money in retirement. How much is there, and what portion is tax deferred, and what's post tax? What's going on for you?
Sure, I've got in a traditional IRA, I've got a little over $900,000.
Okay.
And in my Roth, I've got about $325, $327, something like that. Okay,
great. And how about money outside of those accounts, Linda?
Yeah, I've got just some mutual funds. And that's about $200,000.
Wow, that's a big number. Okay.
Well, and then I'm a saver for specific purposes. So I have several other little funds that are earmarked for to buy a new car. I've got $34,000 in that. I've got $31,000 in my go on vacation when I'm retired fund.
I like that. Okay, so how much money do you think that you would need to draw from your accounts to fund yourself? Like, what are we talking about?
Well, I've been on unemployment. So one finds out you can live on very little when you need to.
Yeah.
So I've been on unemployment here. I've got a couple more weeks of that going. So I would say, the big expenses, of course, are when property taxes and insurance is due. But generally, from a monthly standpoint, I can probably get by with a couple thousand, $2,500 a month.
Okay, that's great. And what is the Social Security at your full retirement age? You said 66. How much would that be?
That is $2,600 and some change.
Oh, okay. And what about at 70?
It's $900 more, $3,500.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Yeah, big difference.
Yeah. Do you have a spouse or?
I do not.
Okay.
Single person.
Got it. And tell me about the house. How much is that worth?
About $260, $70, all paid off.
Oh, great. Oh, fantastic. Okay. And the couple $100,000 that you have in the mutual funds, I'm kind of intrigued by that. So, is there any reason why would you want to? Normally, I would say tap into that first.
Okay.
Is there any reason why you wouldn't? Is there some humongous gains that you have in those funds?
There is some. One of them is the S&P 500, which of course that's
So
I've
that's
had that fund forever.
Yeah.
So so there's a big gains in that. But otherwise, no. I mean, as you know, the market's done well the last couple of years. So
there are no losses embedded in there, are there?
Yeah. I'm sorry.
Losses. Any losses that
just one account has a loss.
All right.
It's only worth about $5,000, but
oh, brother. Okay, that's not a lot.
Yeah.
Well, okay, there's an interesting theory that I want to kind of float by you. And that is this. You are about to not have a lot of income. And as a result, it may be worth your while to actually take money out of your traditional retirement accounts.
Okay.
So, especially because you're basically saying that you don't need a lot to live on. Now, I would hazard to guess that if we could get you, I don't know, let's call it 40 grand a year from the traditional retirement account. If you can get 40, that'll amount, you'll have to pay tax on it, but that's only the 12% tax bracket. So if you pull 40 out of the traditional, I think you get your $2,500 a month pretty close to what you need. You could always round it out. You could, take a little bit more. But I think that paying at the 12% rate and getting some of the money out of this traditional is actually going to be smart for you, because you'll see when you actually get your Medicare and you get that as income starts to rise and you're forced to take money out of your traditional IRA, you're going to end up paying more for Medicare. So I would, even though this is usually not like the most I don't know, common advice. Because of where tax rates are, I think this could actually work for you. And, again, if you pull 40 out, you pay 10 grand of taxes, let's say. You'd probably be less than that, but let's just say. Then you've got your 30 grand to live on. And I think that will probably get you exactly where you need to go. You need to do it for, what do we say, 6 years, right?
Yeah. Yep.
That'll get $250,000 out of there. I think that this works because then you're going to have that higher amount of Social Security for the rest of your life. And then we'll still have a bunch of money in the traditional, a bunch of money in the Roth, and the mutual funds. So I think that's the game plan. I think you wait till age 70. You pull the money out of the traditional retirement accounts. You try to stay in that 12% tax bracket. And I think it works.
Okay. Well, I was leaning that way, but like you said, it doesn't seem like it's the normal way people would tell you to do it. So.
No, I'm very abnormal. You'll find that. You will. But I think you're in good shape. I know it's very upsetting to people, like if you're counting on working for a long time. I know that it can be incredibly upsetting to be in that place where you're like, well, wait a minute, I thought I was going to be working for all this time. I think that what you're actually proving to all of the other listeners out there is that when you count on working longer, it doesn't always end up that way, which is why you need to save. And frankly, you've been an amazing saver. So congratulations. I think we got, if you run into anything else and you got a question, feel free to call us. But I think you're in good shape, and I would proceed and don't go crazy. And if you want to work part-time, you make a little money, you can take a little less out. But try to stay in that 12% tax bracket. Again, that's $40,125 as a single person this year. Okay?
All right. Very good.
Sound good. Right. Good luck. Take care.
Thanks so much for your help.
Oh, a pleasure. Thank you so much for calling.
Bye-bye.
Oh, man, it's tough to, but you know what's amazing? That she has the option. This is why I tell people to save. It's not because I want to be like a school marm about it. You save because you give yourself optionality. And without the saving, you have absolutely no choice there, right? And that to me is the difference in all of this. All right, Mark, how much time do I have? I think I could do one email in here. Okay. This is from Bill. He wants to retire at age 56. He's 50 years old. He's been in the same company and sector for 27 years as an engineer. He says his retirement review, suggested he and his wife are on track. They can achieve their goal. He says, how do I find potential blind spots to the plan since I still have time before it's set in action? My wife's a veterinarian. We got a couple kids. We've got savings, net worth $3 million. We want to leave the Chicago suburbs for rural Iowa. You know what your blind spot is? That you don't make as much money with your assets as you plan. So what I would do is test your retirement plan with a lower rate of return. Try that. See what happens if you maybe used 6%. See what happens at 4%. There's a blind spot for you. All right, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, a retirement issue, a Social Security question, anything like that, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Hey, during the break, hop onto our website. It's called JillOnMoney.com. There, you can buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. If you've got a question, just shoot us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. That's what Scott did. He wants to know, I think a fair question. In this day and age, do we really need to keep so many documents? I live in an apartment, and while burglary is not much of a concern, fire and water could be. He says, this is what I see value in storing: birth and marriage certificates, Yes, true. Passports, wills, and advance directives, which I also have scanned. And that I agree with you. Those are, and divorce decrees also for anyone else. Also, anybody who has military service, that would be good. Okay. Now, Scott says, what about property deed and ownership forms, insurance policies, bank and financial info, auto title? Well, the bank and financial stuff, you can shred that pretty regularly, unless you need it for taxes, you can get rid of it. Auto title, I think you do need to keep, because what if you're going to sell your car? Insurance documents should be kept with your will and directives. And same deal with the property deed. Why do we need to maintain original Social Security cards? Gosh, I don't know. I don't really know if you need a physical card. I doubt you do. But what I do is I do the same thing. Like I scan stuff, but what I also do is make sure that I have the physical somewhere and that the person who might need to know where that is knows where it is. Okay. How about that? All right. Next question from, I can't say her name. She wants to remain anonymous. She switched jobs. Former company had a pension in addition to 401k. Should I roll over the entire lump sum, 40 grand into an IRA, or leave it alone? I'm 32 and have a Roth 401k. Been contributing since I graduated. Roll it over. Just roll it over. Don't think about it. It's going to go into an IRA. Unless you're in a fantastic plan, and I don't know, who the plan provider is, but I would just roll it over, make it easy. So many of these things is about like just ease of management, which I think would be better for you. Question from Jim. Received my first required minimum distribution in 2019 for my IRA. I'd like to reinvest all or most of my RMDs. I know there are reinvestment restrictions. There are no reinvestment restrictions. It's just that you have to pay your tax that's due, and you will. And you have no reinvestment restrictions at all. You can put that money wherever you want. You just can't put it in you're not going to put it in another tax deferred account. So that's something to keep in mind. Carolyn writes, if I want to refinance my loan with the United States USDA, how do I do it? I think the way the loan was done when I got it, I was so excited. I didn't put him on the loan. Now he wants to be part of the loan, so I want to refinance the house. How can I move forward? I've been in the house for 10 years. Carolyn, go talk to what I would do? I would talk to a mortgage broker. This is the loan you have. Tell the mortgage broker what you want to do and figure it out from there, because I don't know if you're going to be able to do exactly what you want to do with the USDA directly. Okay? Amy writes, my husband and I are wondering if we should pay extra on our student loans, 21 grand, average of 4.25% interest, or slowly and put more towards retirement. Right now we pay $300 a month on the loans and $400 a month extra. We're trying to decide where to put it. I don't know how much you're putting into retirement, hopefully enough to capture the match. I would actually put more money down on those student loans. 4.25%, it's like earning a guaranteed 4.25% return. That's not so bad. I would pay those loans down. Depends also your age, but my inclination is put, at least half of that, so a couple $100 extra down on the loans. Glenn is receiving a settlement from his mother's estate, $20,000 to $40,000. Where can I put it to invest for 12 months plus? I'm 66. I'm retiring in a few months. House is paid for. I've got no debt. I don't need to spend the money in the future. And so what should I do with it? For 12 months? For 12 months, I put it in a high-yielding checking savings money market account. And I would go to depositaccounts.com to check where you might get the best rates out there. 12 months is a short time, so no risk. Okay. Here's a question. This is Shirley. How can I invest more wisely than 3%? Okay. She's got an annuity. It's paying 3%. And she says, I have about $1,000 I can safely invest. How to gain confidence in trading? Don't trade. Do not trade. Who said you had to trade? I need to know more about you. I mean, you can get more than 3% if you're willing to take risk. If you're not willing to take risk, it may be kind of hard. So I'd be careful about that. Let's see. Joanna has been a teacher for 22 years and worried about retirement. I will have a pension when I retire. I'm 61 now. I'm going to work till 65. It won't be enough to live on. I've got an IRA, $200,000, and a Roth, $150,000. I keep contributing to. I also have $50,000 saved. At the end of the year, I will only owe on my house, which I'm contemplating downsize to reduce the mortgage. Where can I educate myself on the steps I should be taking to make my money work harder for me? So much confusing information. Mark, is this going to be so pathetic that what I'm about to do? Hey, how about buying my book? Seriously, I mean, this is exactly, I wrote the book for people like you, Joanna, meaning that if you read through and you start, especially the chapters on investing, I think that you will find that much of this confusion is about the industry creating confusion. There are a lot of different options for you. And I think at the very least, buying the book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, even though I'm shilling for myself and it sounds silly, I did write the book for people who are just like you. So head on over to our website. That website is jillonmoney.com. And know that we have a little link, and it's called The Book. And when you click on that link, then you'll be directed and you can buy the book wherever, from whichever seller you like, or just go to your local bookstore. Okay? All right. That's yet another segment of emails. I feel like I'm plowing through. I'm very excited. If you've got a financial question, send it to us. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, I'd love to hear from you. Mark would too, but I like you more than he does, because I'm more of the social. I am the outside person of this duopoly that we have, the two of us. He's the inside guy. I am the extrovert generally, but I'm really more introverted on some level, because Mark knows that I can hide out in a bunker for a weekend pretty easily. So anyway, send us your questions. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. That's what Jason did. Jason says, I am looking for tips on paying off debt. And he includes in that mortgage and also saving for retirement. Here are the stats. My wife and I make $120,000 a year. We've got 2 children and one 529 account. Sounds pretty good so far. We have a small savings plan in place and a mortgage that my mother holds 2%. Oh my gosh. Fantastic. My wife has a 401k. I've got an IRA. I don't contribute to it. We live in upstate New York. Any advice? Look, I think that, first of all, don't worry about paying off the debt. If that's the only debt you have and it's a 2% mortgage, no, I am not interested in paying that off. Thank you very much. That said, I think that we ought to be looking at putting some sort of plan on autopilot. You say you've got an IRA, why don't you contribute to it? All you have to do, you can set that up on a monthly basis and automate it. And as much as you can automate your financial life, the more successful you're going to be. And I would put retirement first. I really would cool off on the 529 for now. And as much as possible, get things moving on an automatic basis. Okay? Okay. Anthony writes, I heard that between age 50 and 60, a person should start looking into long-term care insurance. I turned 50 last year. I don't plan on making any decisions today, but I am looking at 3 options. Here are his current assets. $1.1 million in a 401k, $130,000 in a cash balance pension, $115,000 in a taxable account, cash $280,000, home value $320,000. I've got no debt. I plan on contributing to my 401k and taxable accounts until I'm age 55, at which point I plan to work part-time and use my taxable account to supplement my income. Boy, that sounds so good. All right, here's a question. 3 options, he says. Between 58 and 60, purchase long-term care. Hold on a second. Why are we buying long-term care insurance for this guy? Is there a spouse? I don't see you mentioning a spouse. All right, here's what I would say. I need more information. Forgetting about these options, I'm not sure you need long-term care insurance. If you're single and you've got all this money, so let's see, that's 1.3, $1.6 million about, not even including the house. $1.6 million. If you have that much money and you don't have a spouse or anyone else that's counting on you, I don't think you need LTC. I really don't. Am I missing something? If you are single, you don't need this. If you're married, you might. In which case, you didn't mention a spouse, though. What do you think, Mark? You think married or not married? I'm thinking not either. I'm thinking you don't need long-term care. Tell me if I'm missing something. I want to hear a follow-up. Mark's going to get back in touch with you. I'm not even answering this because I actually don't think you need long-term care insurance. It's just kind of interesting, right? Like a lot of people ask about long-term care, and I just don't know why. If you have that much money and no one else to worry about, then you self-insure. It's fine. Arlene writes, I don't know if I should move my money from an annuity. Things don't seem good for me. I'm 69. I need help. Oy. When you say things don't seem good to me, I don't know, Arlene, if you mean that your health is not in a good place, or if you mean something else. So I need more information. I really do. I'm sorry that that's probably annoying to you, but if you really need money, you can get money out of an annuity, depending on the age of the annuity. But it's very important that we know some of the facts surrounding that. Okay. Question from Suzanne. The question is there a tax liability when you roll over your IRA to an HSA? Huh? I don't think you can move an IRA into an HSA. I don't think you can. Oh, wait a second. Is there a tax liability for a simple IRA or traditional rollover to an HSA? I don't think you can do that. We can check on it. Mark, let's try to look that up. I don't think that you can do that. I think an HSA has to be paired with a high deductible health plan. I think the money has to be taken out from payroll. I think there are some rules, but I am not sure that you can do this. And my guess is that you probably can't do it you could take a distribution from an IRA and then use that money extra, as long as you have a high deductible health plan. But it has to be, HSAs are only paired with high deductible health plans. So if you don't have that, you don't get an HSA. HSAs are pretty cool. We're going to have to do an HSA or benefits episode for sure. That would be excellent. I think it'd be very useful to some of you all out there. I like HSAs. Really good way to save for future healthcare costs. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. During the break, go to the website, jillonmoney.com, and there, what can you do? You can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. Mark puts it together every single Friday. Isn't that great? It's grand. Okay, when we return, more of your questions. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money, where we are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. Capital One, what's in your wallet? All right, here's a question from David, the subject is helping parents invest. That's so nice. David says, I just finished listening to your new book, and as a 37-year-old professional with some investment and retirement accounts, I'll be reevaluating how I save towards retirement and how it's distributed among stocks, bonds, and cash. My question, what do you know about Laurel Langemeyer's Big Table Plan group thing? Mark, I never heard of this thing, but let's just go on. My parents are in their 60s. They live on my dad's retirement. They are in debt. They went to her seminar, and now they're trying to get business loans to invest, what? $20,000 to $40,000 they don't have in some investment she's touting, along with whatever other services training they're offering for a fee, of course. Ugh. They've got some stock trading algorithm, blah, blah, blah. What's my take on this? I don't even know this. Step away. Get your parents to stop doing this and immediately. Wow, this sounds about the worst thing you could ever imagine, especially for people who are seemingly in some trouble. So I would avoid this at all possible costs and be extremely careful. Please. Gosh, that's not a great story. Okay. 55-year-old Larry has a big debt. It's holding him back. He says, the problem in question, an $80,000 line of credit I've got with a 5.75% interest rate. I want to pay it down. I'm down to paying almost $400 a month. The only thing you can really do is that when you have something like this is to try and refinance it with rates lower. You may need to kind of look around, but it's going to be tough. And I would go back to the loan officer who extended this to you, say you're in trouble, and see if you can refi. That's it. All right, it's Jill on Money, and we've got a whole nother hour ahead of us. During the break, why don't you subscribe to our podcast? It is conveniently called Jill on Money. Isn't that fantastic? So easy to remember. Do it. You can go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, subscribe to the podcast. You won't miss an episode. Lots of Jill, though. I don't know if you're up for that. Okay, we'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome back. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. How about that? Can do it. All right. We know from many of you that the idea of being an employee in this day and age is rough. Even if the economy's doing okay, and even if your job feels somewhat secure, you're getting the messaging, you've got to work, and you've got to network, and you've got to keep networking, and you have to be social, and you have to be your authentic self, and it's overwhelming, isn't it? Well, we have a self-described introvert as our guest this hour. Karen Wickery has written a book called Taking the Work Out of Networking, and she is a technology kind of employee. She worked at Twitter, Google, but she's not exactly what you would think. So here's our interview with Karen Wickery.
Fast forward, I had a variety of basically nonprofit organizational jobs over time. And then I had come to San Francisco in 1984, another nonprofit job, but that was a media-related job. It was for journalists. It was an organization for journalists. Mm-hmm. And one of the board members was one of the first, he was a publisher of some of the up-and-coming personal computer magazines. Mm-hmm. And so I knew nothing about that world, but he hired me. He was a weird guy, and he...
It's not Dan Farber, is it?
No, although I know him very well.
I thought you were about to actually give me a perfect description of Dan.
This is where I met Dan Farber, who used to do Tai Chi in the hallways.
Yeah, and he still does.
And still does. Anyway, yes, so that is where I met him, but it was PC World magazine and Macworld magazine. And I just happened to, get along with and could understand the founder of these, David Bennell. So that was really my leap into the world.
And so this is a job where essentially it is, are you writing, editing?
Yes,
a little bit of
that,
everything?
and I was a little bit maybe kind of a chief of staff.
Yeah.
I kind of helped him on new projects, and I was kind of a liaison to the editorial teams. Mm-hmm. I mean, I was a sponge. I learned about magazines there. I learned about, to the extent it was possible, technology at that time, which now is like primitive.
Right.
What it was. But that was the beginning of working in tech. Right. So that was, 30 years ago.
You were working through the mid-'80s, through the end of the '90s, the tech, and in various almost those kinds of roles, journalistic,
editorial kind of roles,
okay.
Yes.
Now you get in the door at Google as a freelancer, and an introverted freelancer. What are you doing? You're writing a little bit, and then are you doing something in your own mind, methodically saying, how can I make this a full-time gig, or are you doing that naturally?
So I was hired into my friend Cindy's team. This was her group, communications, right? PR. Small team. This is at a time Google had between 500 and 600 employees. It was kind of all hands on deck. And fortunately, I'm a pretty quick kind of utility writer. So I can write a little ad copy. I'm a good editor. I can make something into, an op-ed. I just did a hodgepodge of things. I edited whatever somebody would let me edit, always making it better in my view. And so I was just kind of a utility kind of writer. I saw from the beginning I have to be so indispensable, so utilitarian that they want to have me around. They didn't have a role for me. And it took about 15 months for somebody to come up with headcount to add me as a new thing. And I called myself, I said, I want my title to be senior editor.
Okay. And you made it
that's a big
up,
tent.
right?
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's brilliant.
Yeah.
And you know what? I love the idea that you sort of go in there and you say, okay, I got a job to do. I'm going to be a sponge. So I feel like these are all like life lessons that you actually have and you make yourself indispensable and liked. How can somebody who's a little shy about that do something that you did, which was kind of make yourself indispensable, create your own title, and, get that career going?
Well, two things. I mean, one is I was not new to technology, right? So I already had kind of working knowledge and contacts and experiences that were definitely helpful in terms of, not being like, wow, what is this crazy thing called Google? Like I'd already reviewed it as a search engine for one of my, columns somewhere. I had credibility coming in, even though all the immediate people around me didn't know me. But I think the other thing is the mission of Google really spoke to me. I mean, if it had been banking or insurance or something, I'm not sure I would have put myself out there as much. It would have been more a job. But I thought, remember the downturn, I was kind of desperate. I just bought my first house.
Desperation works, right?
Desperation was good. But also I knew Cindy who ran the group. I'm just all in on this. And so for that reason, I'm always friendly. I'm a girl from the 50s. So it's all about being likable, right? We all want to be likable. So that part wasn't hard, but I just thought, how can I help? What can I do to, add to whatever you're doing?
How long were you at Google?
9 years.
And then why did you leave?
By the end, as much as I loved it and as incredible an experience, by the end, there were 50,000 employees.
So 500 to 50,000 is something else.
Yeah. That was, I felt like I
Explosive.
watched it grow up. I which was a fantastic experience. I wasn't doing anything new. Meanwhile, I was still, I was all about publishing and writing. I'd built up the whole Google blog network. And I had my eye on and was familiar with a new publishing platform, newest, called Twitter. And I knew a bunch of people there. And I just thought, well, that might be interesting. The original team the founders were gone. So it was now in the hands of Dick Costello and Ali Bergani had come in as the executives. And I thought, well, they seem serious, right? They're, they want to go places. And so somebody I knew there created kind of a job that was perfect for me called editorial director.
And what does that job do? What are you doing in that job?
It's in communications still, and it's essentially corporate communications. So these days we call this kind of thing a company's news and information channels that they own. We call that owned content, right? We didn't call it that then, but it's that idea. It's sort of like, so the company blog, the company social accounts.
Yep.
Well, at Twitter, interesting. Of course, Twitter has to have a Twitter account.
Right.
And Twitter had a blog, but it was kind of dormant. So it was sort of like building up, what are we going to talk about? And that's just not product announcements. I have an editorial view on that. And then how do you use social to amplify?
And so what year was that you joined Twitter?
2011.
And you lasted for how long there?
Almost 5 years. 2016 I left.
And why did you leave there?
Twitter had quite a few ups and downs, and it was a fascinating experience of a very different company than Google. And I'm glad I did it, but I was I'd been run through the ringer, to be honest, a little bit. But
what does that mean?
Well, I just, we'd had a couple rounds of layoffs, a lot of executive change, a lot of executive turnover. And it was wearing. It was hard. I had a team. I had to try and keep up their spirits while I was, feeling, another one,
Yes.
It was just a little wearing. So I felt like, I think I'm ready now to just kind of hang out my shingle.
Okay, we'll get back to Karen Wickery in just a second. How about during the break, you hop onto the website, JillOnMoney.com. You can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. You can also buy my book, either in hardcover or in paperback. The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. I know it's been very rough go for investors. People are very nervous. So sometimes when the markets go insane, upside, downside, what I like to do is concentrate on the things that I can control. And what is that? How about your career? Also known as your human capital. It's a little clinical. What does that really mean? It usually just means paying attention to what's going on at work, who's the person you need to be talking to, and going outside your company, going outside your comfort zone, and talking to different people all over the place. Our guest, Karen Wickery, she's written a book called Taking the Work Out of Networking. And in this segment, we focus on the part of networking that shouldn't be so hard. No pressure networking is what she calls it. Making these connections. These are the important things that might help you get through what will likely be the next recession and the next downturn. So how about some no pressure networking? Here's more of our interview with Karen Wickery. I want to start with the idea that you laid out that I thought was really good, which is I think a lot of people will hear networking and they're like, I don't want to do that.
Yep.
Or that's annoying.
Everyone hates
right?
it. Yep.
I don't. I love it because I am just a voyeur. So I just like to ask questions. So you have something called the 11 Organizing Principles of No Pressure Networking. And the number one I really do want to focus on, which is be open. I think this is really hard for people. Why is it so important to be open in that networking mantra of like, here's what you need to do?
It means, to me, being open to the opportunity. In other words, if your work is sending you to a conference, then don't hide in the corner. Like, be open while you're there. It doesn't mean personally open, obviously, about everything. It just means, your friend says, I really want you to meet so-and-so because you have a lot in common. Be open to that meeting, right? Be open to someone saying, I'd like to take you out for coffee because I want to hear about, say yes.
I love the number 5 here. Don't limit your context. Can you explain what that means?
Yeah. So I think I've been fortunate in having so many kind of serendipitous moments where people cross over lines. We all have professional contacts, our work colleagues, maybe our former classmates or whatever, or, past colleagues, but we don't necessarily think about them in relation to maybe what we want to know about now. Or, no, I can only talk to someone else in the exact role that I want. And it's like, well, maybe I can't find you that, but I can find someone at the company who could maybe introduce you to that person. It's an ongoing chain. Right? So don't be so like, I don't know what that person could do for me, so no.
Right.
That's not being open.
No, that is not. And also, I think that it is a maybe a defensive mechanism, right? That we put up a wall because now we're like, I don't know if I want to put myself out there really, right? So you also have sort of this concept of like a loose touch. I like that. I can be heavy-handed.
Do it.
I do it all the time, but but it comes very naturally to me. So no one had to tell me how to network. I was just basically a voyeur, so I like people, and I'm a matchmaker. What is it that is preventing us from asking, and then how can we build that loose touch concept into our day-to-day?
So we hate asking because typically we're the one in need at the moment. It's either your friend wanting to help her son or somebody like, reorg coming. I got to get a new job. Your new boss is terrible. I got to get out. So you feel like the clock is ticking. Who do I know? Who I can ask? It becomes a very transactional thing. And then you think, well, how well do I know them? And how busy are they? And how important are they? And, it just, you're anxious about the whole thing and you're needy, right? And you think, oh, this other person has the key to my happiness. That's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So part of it is just if you're all the time keeping in touch with people, lose touch, which I'll talk about in a minute, then you are more in the practice of just saying, of the give and get of it, because I'm sure you also ask people for things from time to time.
Sure.
Rather than having it be it's a one and done transaction and then I owe them. We have to get away from that. This is why people hate networking, right? So keeping in loose touch is something I do as a matter of habit because I, too, am a connector. And I like also just knowing what's going on with people. That's the thing that I've always done. And 95% of that I do online, which is easy for an introvert. But loose touch is something you don't do with strangers. You do this with people you already know somewhat, right? Or well, obviously. But the way, you might do this is, we'll get to Twitter later, I know. But if I see something in my feed on Twitter that I know will be of interest to someone, I send a private message.
Right.
And I just say, thinking of you when I read this. It doesn't have to be my best friend. It can be someone I've worked with in the past, someone whose company they're being talked about or something like that. Just like thinking of you, how are you? Thought you'd want to see this.
Right.
I mean, it's the equivalent of, people used to like paperclip a note to an article and put it in the mail, which is...
Sadly, I still do that. No, I don't. I do carry around physical newspapers, but I do often will highlight something and hand it. Yeah, and just say this is interesting.
Yeah.
Or saw you mentioned in this article, right?
Yeah. And I should add, of course, this doesn't only have to happen on Twitter. Email is perfectly legitimate for this, or whatever other channels.
But
LinkedIn.
This is just like being almost neighborly. It's
Yes,
it's sort of a weird thing. Like when you think about that in a digital society, sometimes you can feel lonely. You're connected but lonely, right?
Yeah.
So this is just a way to sort of break through that and say, hey, I saw this about you. And then it's sort of the best of social. It's the best of connecting.
That's right.
It shouldn't be onerous.
No, it shouldn't
be fun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And they're also, these things don't require these little notes and sort of, with a little touch point. They don't require, they're not an obligation for the other person. You're not saying, can I have lunch with you? I need a favor. You're just keeping in touch and that when you occasionally need to be in touch with that same person about something, we're all kind of in the ether together, right? And so you've had those moments, you've kind of maybe exchanged a couple of these notes. And then it's like, hey, can I actually have coffee with you? Can I buy you coffee? Because I want to talk to you about X.
When you're going to make that ask, do you come through the front door? Do you say, like, I have a favor to ask you, or can I do this? Do you like to do that, like, sort of up front, or do you sort of... Yeah.
No, I would. I would say, usually I'm going to give some more context. So unless I know them pretty well, it's probably by email. And I'll say, hope you're well, saw your latest thing, you're great, and I have a favor to ask. Here's the favor, and give them the specifics, like it's someone I want to introduce you to, it's a question my friend has about blah. At your convenience, like, may I connect you, or may I point them to you for that?
I love that you say that in the book, because you say you do not make a connection without getting permission from one person.
Correct.
I mean, that's a big no-no. No cold calls. I do that all the time. And I find it, it's funny because often when I'm at work, people will ask me financial advice because I used to be a financial planner and a money manager. I say, I don't do that anymore. But I'd be happy to hook you up with so-and-so, Joe Blow, down the street. And then I will say, is that okay? Do you want me to make a connection, or do you just want me to give you the information, you do it on your own?
Yeah.
No, make the connection.
Yeah.
Then I'll call advisor A, B, or C.
Yep.
Say, here's the deal. Karen needs some help. She's a colleague of mine, great gal, blah, blah, blah. This is what I think the context is. I'd be appreciative if you kind of took care of her. Like, she probably doesn't have enough money. She's probably not going to worry, but just talk to her.
Yep.
And I like to sort of smooth it out.
Yep.
And you say that's kind of very important to at least before you start making connections.
Yeah, because, I have to say I have like a, 99% hit rate this way because people will now say to me, anyone you want to introduce me to is fine. Just don't even hesitate. But I still ask because I want to have that moment of giving them, here's the context. Because sometimes, and I will do this myself, you know what? I'm not the right person for this particular thing. But either let me talk to them because then I'll pass them on, or instead I'd like to introduce you to so-and-so, and they are going to be the one who knows more about this.
Okay, more Networking 101 with Karen Wickery when we return. During the break, why don't you go to our website, JillOnMoney.com, and poke around, see all the fun stuff that's there, great content. You can also listen to past shows, or if you've missed any part of this one, you can hop on there later. And of course, always send us an email, contact us button right in the top right corner. Okay, we'll be right back.
Do I invest here? Should I put my money there? Jill Schlesinger can help you. Back to Jill on Money.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. If you have a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And if you're on the website, we have a contact button there. But, I'm a little old school. I love emails still. So I really do appreciate when you send us those notes. And send us a little bit of background about yourself so we can help you out. All right, now let's get back to the final segment of our interview with Karen Wickery. I'm going to concentrate on the type of people who really do like email. Yeah, that's us, over 50 crowd. And we want to talk a little bit about how the over 50 among us can help ourselves by networking. Here's more of our interview with Karen Wickery. Now, I'd love to shift gears a bit and go into the, how shall we say, the AARP conversations that we have. So the over 50s, of which I am a proud member.
Same.
What is it about being over 50 in the workplace right now that people need to know? Because I'm going to give you two sides to it. On one side, I think the over 50 is the best networking group ever. You have a network. Yeah. You actually have lived a life, right? On the other hand, there is a certain fear or maybe anxiety around engaging on some of the newer platforms that prevents you from engaging in a way that might be helpful to you. So you're over 50, networking, working, not working, coming back into the labor force, out of the what do we need to know?
There's a couple things. I mean, for people who have not been, shall we say, digital, maybe email for work, but nothing else. I hate to say it, I hate to pile on, but it is important to be on LinkedIn, and I'll tell you why in a sec. Mm-hmm. And it's important not to be familiar with these various tools. Obviously, some may be required by your work, because if you sort of express dismay about them, or you say, oh God, I can't, do another new thing or something, that is going to end up being a mark against you, right? This leads to the silent but deadly age discrimination.
Which is real.
It is real. It's very hard to prove. It happens, but most people, you get edged out, right?
Right.
It's not, they don't say you're too old.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard to prove.
It is hard to prove. I mean, most of my friends who've been in this situation, if I could, I pointed them to a lawyer to help them get a decent severance. I will say that, and I did learn this at Google, I observed this, and it really didn't have to do with age, but what I noticed is they weren't hiring people on the basis of what they'd done before only. Right? They wanted experience and expertise in certain things, but to just rest on that and say, well, this is how we did it back there, and so that's what I'm going to do here. No, they want to know, and I think most modern companies are more into this now, sort of like, how do you think about problems? How do you collaborate? right? How do you problem solve? You know, do you have social skills? Because that's important in a workplace.
Let's now go back to these platforms.
Yeah.
So you left Twitter in 2016, before or after the election?
It was before. It was a few months before.
You know this guy, Scott Galloway, who, right?
Yeah.
He always has a funny comment. He says that Twitter should, like, lay down their souls. Every single person should, like, pray at the president's footsteps because the president single-handedly made Twitter a much more relevant and important social media device than it was prior to the election. Agree or disagree?
Oh, disagree.
Okay.
Yeah. Look, it's a quirky platform. It's not for everybody. It's not like the others. It should not be compared to Facebook. It's not in the same business as Facebook in a way. But the thing about it is your whole experience there is dependent on who you choose to follow.
You have more of a journalist bent, or editorial writer journalist bent.
I do.
What responsibility does Twitter and Facebook or any of these other platforms have to making sure that they are not amplifying lies?
There's a few tricky things about this. I do understand why these companies don't want to be considered publishers. They would say, it's not our information, right? They would say, we're like the phone company. This is an old
yes.
kind of legal case. We're just the carrier.
Right.
Right. We wouldn't listen to all the phone messages. We can't possibly. Okay. And that is true in terms of scale. Any platform that says, and Facebook has said this several times, you know, we're hiring 10,000 more people, 20,000 more people to monitor, to, you know, moderate. You can't hire enough people.
No.
The scale of the messages, the videos on YouTube, for example. I mean, it's just the scale is something people cannot imagine. So that is like super whack-a-mole. Some things they have done, and I think it's a continuing arms race, to be sure, because the bad actors are more and more sophisticated about how they use these tools. And there are more and more ways to have these deep fake videos and these, you know, audio alterations and all these things. So that's ongoing. That's just the world we live in. For them, I think a couple of things. One is, and I think they do this, but they can't really talk about it, is my guess, the under the hood stuff in terms of what they're monitoring and ideally seeing among the platform. I hope they're talking among themselves in the background to say, we're seeing this, you know, we're seeing weird signups, or we've discovered this bot, but it's maybe on Twitter and YouTube, you know, for example, or something is happening on Facebook, but it's similar to this other thing. They need to have pretty easy way to have those conversations and discovery so that they can stop things earlier, maybe before they're even, you know, out the gate. Sort of like, what are suspicious account signups, right? When they're created overnight, like, oh, really? 10,000 from Macedonia last night?
Yeah, seems odd.
So anyway, there are those kind of things.
But they seem so reluctant. I mean, look, I work for a news organization. Yeah. We can't put crap out there that's not true.
Right.
Okay? And we get whacked if we do. And they really want it both ways.
Yeah.
And specifically, I mean, Facebook is the worst in my estimation. You cannot put something that is an advertisement that is false out on your platform. And then when you're notified that this is false, refuse to take it down.
I think that we need to know who's the money behind the ads. It's not just enough to say the Citizens for good behavior, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
forget about that.
We need to know
where is this coming from?
Where is it
Source
actually?
Of funds.
Source of funds.
Thanks so much to Karen Wickery for joining us. Boy, that was great. And we really do want to take the work out of networking, so heed what she says. All right, now, maybe you've done some networking, you got a new job offer, you were trying to weigh your options. How about sending us a note and we'll help you decide what works better for you? We can do that. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Okay, we'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, we'd love to hear from you. Our email address is askjill@JillOnMoney.com. Now, do give us plenty of detail when you're sending us emails so we can answer appropriately. This email with the subject line help, I wasn't exactly prepared for what's written. So either someone's pulling our leg or there is maybe a misfire or on a typo, or it's completely legit, but it's wild. So this is from Rick, who is a disabled veteran from upstate New York. And he receives disability payment of $3,200 a month. My wife is also retired. And we also have income from 6 different rental properties, $3,000 a month. So $6,200 a month. Now, here's where it gets interesting. You ready, gang? Is this legit or not? Just let us know what you think. This year, I will receive the first payment from my invention, $50 million plus. And subsequent years, there will be over $1 billion a B. So this is by far the most money that anybody's written in about here at this program. We live in New York State, and can you tell me what we would save by changing a state of residence to a tax-free state? How about this, Rick? A freaking pile of money. This is a no-brainer. There's no way you should stay in New York State. So if you like it cold, maybe you move up to New Hampshire. If you like it warm, maybe you move to Florida. But there are huge benefits for you to be in a tax-free state. Enormous. This is absolutely not even close to, I guess maybe you might say to yourself, I love where I live. I don't want to move. Okay. Move someplace where you can at least be there for 6 months and 3 days. It's so much money. And for estate planning purposes also, it's huge. All right. So if we believe you, go move tax-free, my friend. Make it happen. We don't often get an email like that, Mark. That's amazing. Okay. Renee has $30,000 in a rollover IRA, and she says, if I put all of it in a CD or a few CDs, will I have to pay tax on it? I'm planning on retiring in May of 2021 at age 66. Right now, the money is not earning interest. No, you don't have to pay any tax on it. You would move the rollover IRA to a place where you could buy a CD inside of that rollover IRA, and then the interest will accrue, and you won't have to pay tax on it. It's very easy to do. You can do it at a bank. You could do it at other financial institution. A lot of financial institutions will offer the ability to buy CDs. So check it out. All right. Emily writes that she is 26, her husband's 31. They've got debt of $51,000 with income of about $80,000. We've done the math on how much we need to pay off every month in order to be debt-free within 3 years. That's good. However, that being said, we're trying to find some sort of passive income involving investing. We've thought about flipping homes. The reality is we don't have enough time in our hand in the day to do the work and stay married. What are your suggestions on investment opportunities that are safe? How about none of the above? How about that 3 years is a really short period of time to be trying to invest? As a thought experiment, imagine this. Let's say you wrote this to me in 2007, beginning of 2007, and you said, gosh, we really want to be able to, have some sort of passive investment. And then we would have 2007, 2008, and 2009. And 2008 and 9, the stock market would go up a little bit in 2007, and then you'd lose half the value, and then you would be kind of out of luck. So I'm much more inclined to say, well, go to depositaccounts.com, go find yourself higher yielding rate accounts, and go that route rather than putting the money at risk. Okay? I think that would make a lot of sense. Let's see. This is from Jillian, who she and her husband have a money market, and we're wondering if is there any benefit to combining money markets. No credit card, no student debt. We're in our early 40s. We each have an IRA, one traditional one. Now, there's not really a benefit of combining them unless they're in some sort of, sometimes the banking institutions will credit you more interest if you have a higher balance. So that may be a place to that may be something you want to check out. Just try that. Okay? How much time do I have? Okay. James writes, my wife and I, who are retired, each have an annuity with a value of $250,000. Our advisor wants to put my wife's retirement sum of $300,000 into it as well. Is this wise? Here's an easy answer for you. No. You already have annuities. I don't know what kind of annuities. Hopefully they're low cost. I bet they're not. But I would love some more information. My best guiding principle is that when you already have a product that is illiquid like an annuity, there's no need to add to it. You don't need that. And you did say you have an advisor. Is this person advising you in your best interest? In other words, would you mind doing me a favor and asking whether this advisor is a fiduciary advisor? Does he or she have to put your interest first? I'd love to know that. All right, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a question, we'd like to hear from you. But during the break, maybe you want to poke around the website. If you don't have an email ready to fire up, JillOnMoney.com is our website, and there you can get all sorts of great information. You can sign up for our free weekly newsletter. So check it out, and we'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we leave you to enjoy the rest of your weekend, we want to remind you that you have been listening to a program from a very special place. We're broadcasting from the Policy Genius Studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. Okay, Kevin wants to know, what is an exchange-traded note? Should it be part of an individual's portfolio? Now, many of you may have heard of an exchange-traded fund, which we often will compare to a mutual fund. So it's usually these products were basically modeled on index funds. They would just buy a passive basket of something, and of course it got bastardized because the financial services industry got their hands on it. But an exchange-traded note is sort of like that. So it's like a pooled investment. It's usually unsecured debt, meaning like a bond that trades on a major exchange, just like a stock. So they are. So I think most of the times ETNs, they're similar to bonds. They don't pay periodic interest. You can buy and sell them throughout the day, which may or may not be smart. But I'd need to know more about what you're really trying to do in your portfolio to see whether this would make sense rather than just buying a bond fund or buying individual bonds. It really is predicated on the type of investor you are. Okay, and before we finish the show, Dan is 64. He wants to retire in a year or two. His 401k is in a timed retirement plan with Fidelity. I've got additional money to invest. What's my best course of action? Start a brokerage account. How about that? Or give us a holler and let us know more about what's going on. Maybe you don't want to invest this money. Maybe you need this money available to you. Maybe there's a better use of it. I don't know. I need more information down. But that said, if you follow up, we'd be happy to chat with you, okay? So you have been listening to the Jill on Money show, and we thank you so much for doing so. If you have a question throughout the week, you can always email us, askjill@jillonmoney.com. Or if you're on the website, jillonmoney.com, because you're buying my book or doing something fun, there's a contact button. Check it out. The website, jillonmoney.com. And we'll see you next week.